2017-18 Boston Celtics predictions for the coming NBA campaign, now just hours away with Tuesday's opener in Cleveland. Today is Sunday, October 15th, 2017. This is Celtics Beat on the CLNS Media Network, and I am Larry H. Russell. It is time to go on record and put everything into digital stone on this podcast, not just myself, but today's featured guest, Kyle Draper, the host of Celtics Pre- and Post-Game Live on the official television home of the team, NBC Sports Boston. It's episode number 232 of the number one Celtics podcast on the web, presented by Bombfell, BOMBFELL.com/CelticsBeat. So I loved the Kyrie Irving trade, but before the trade, I actually thought the Celtics would make the finals and, of course, lose in a sweep to Golden State. Now I actually have them probably winning 48 games, 50 games even. I think they're going to take a little step back this year, concretely, numbers-wise, but I believe they're much better situated in the future.
Well, I don't think so. I was talking to Scal about this the other night, and, he thinks they're a 50-win team, and I just think, they have too much talent, and I know it's going to take some time. 53 wins last year. I got them at about 54, 55, so I don't think they'll take a step back, in terms of regular season wins. And like you said, they're definitely better prepared for the future. And I think, even if they do take a slight step back, early on in the season, by the time we get to April and then when playoffs start, they'll be a better team, no doubt. And so they may take, a slight step back regular season, but then make it more interesting in the postseason and challenge Cleveland a little better.
Man, you think it's really going to turn around that quick throughout the course of the year? I mean, if you even remember the Heat in 2011, we're talking about Team X, the Celtics had too much talent. It took a while for that Heat team to get going, and granted they did make the finals, but that Heat team had a boatload of talent, a prime LeBron, a prime Dwayne Wade. The Celtics team has a ton of talent too, but, Gordon Hayward, Kyrie Irving are not prime LeBron, prime Dwayne Wade, God forbid even prime Chris Bosh. So I guess you're giving Brad Stevens a lot of credit. Deservedly so, but you are.
No doubt about it. I mean, but, and you're right. One thing about Brad is he usually takes, a month or two, to get the rotation down.
Sometimes even a little longer than that.
Even longer than that. Right, exactly. And so I just think, with these players in this system, I think it'll be easier for them to adapt. I would say, you don't have alpha dogs like, LeBron and Dwayne Wade. And people forget that 2010-2011 Miami Heat team won 58 games, Larry. So let's not act like...
They started very slow, though. They did
start out,
and their offense struggled the entire year.
But when they got rolling, they still won games and 58 wins. And so I'm not saying the Celtics are going to win 58, but this whole comparison, it's going to take time. They're going to take a step back. Well, Miami still won 58 games. So if the Celtics get 54, 55, that's a huge success, I think.
Here with Kyle Draper, host of Celtics Pre- and Post-Game Live. There is now going to be plenty of those coming up in the very near future on NBC Sports Boston. Congrats, Kyle. Before we jump into this prediction show, as we were getting there closer, giving clues to the audience, here's sort of a question. How did your predictions change, say, from mid-August? Maybe you didn't write anything in stone back then, but I'm sure you thought about it. I'm sure you thought about it on July 4th weekend after the Celtics signed Gordon Hayward and even after the Avery Bradley trade. How much did your predictions for this coming season around late July-ish change to when that Kyrie Irving trade was made on August 29th?
Not a whole lot, Larry. I thought even, it all really depended on Isaiah Thomas and his health. So I was assuming he was going to be healthy. Then we get the news that he's out till, at least January. So I was thinking he would be healthy for the Celtics. They won 53 games last season. I was thinking right around that, 53, 54. Now that they got Kyrie Irving, I got him at 55 or so, 56. But, I thought,
You've added like another win or two from like the last 2 minutes ago. So this is good. I guess with the longer we have you here, it'll be up to about 68.
I know, right?
Yeah.
The more we keep talking, it'll be 66 in the NBA championship, no doubt. But no, I had them in the mid-50s, let's say. And ultimately, though, they're still going to lose to Cleveland, in my opinion. I think they're better, prepared to challenge them, with Isaiah Thomas and Gordon Hayward. Maybe they push it to 6 games. Now it may be at 7. with Kyrie. I still think, people, don't realize how good Cleveland is. Sure, they lost Kyrie, but even the other moves that they made, the Derrick Roses of the world, the Jeff Greens, the Jay Crowders, I think those, their bench is so much deeper than it was a season ago, talking about Cleveland. And they got younger also, believe it or not. I know it's hard to say when you got Derrick Rose, and D Wade, but, they got a little younger, too, with the bench, guys who can still produce at a high level. And so I got the Celtics making it to the Eastern Conference Finals, but losing to the Cavs in 6 or 7 games.
Talked about Cleveland ad nauseum last week on a little Cavs primer with Dave McMenamin. So until you actually give me a year and date of when the Celtics are going to beat Cleveland / beat LeBron, or LeBron is just going to leave the Eastern Conference. Well, we don't even care about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Get them out, although I guess we should pretty soon, right? The Celtics are only playing them in T-minus 72 hours or so with a game that matters. Should be a little interesting. I know you'll have plenty of coverage of that. Let's go right down this list. Let's go right down the little rundown. Let's, like I said, you want to interrupt me and throw a year out of the gates of when the Celtics will win at the NBA Finals. We do need to know that information if we're privy to it, Kyle. But
my crystal ball, right?
Okay, let's go. Crystal ball. We'll have a little fun. This is always the most enjoyable show of the year, and me and you have done prediction shows at the new year. We've had some fun ones. I know that you're going to probably shout me out on one, as I'm a little up against the hourglass on a certain one, though. But I actually have a little comebacker ready for you, by the way, because I know you're going to go there. But how about this? There's a lot of predictions to be made with the Celtics this year. Pretty much up and down the roster, individually, team-wise. Let's stay on the team. Starting 5, right? We don't know what it's going to be. I think we know what it's going to be, but even through all these preseason games, I don't think it's set in stone. So don't set it in stone. Write it in pencil. Pencil in the Celtics starting 5 for me on opening night.
Well, on opening night, that's a good question because Brad Stevens said before the Sixers game that the starting lineup is flexible. It's going to be depending on the matchup. If I had to pencil it in right now, I would say Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown at the 2, Gordon Hayward at the 3, Al Horford at the 4, and Aaron Baines I will go with, depending on his injury situation, too. Aaron Baines at the 5. That's what I would say the opening night starting lineup is.
Yeah, I think that's not only the opening night starting lineup because, like you said, it's very flexible. It kind of reminds me, Doc Rivers had the same mindset back in 2013 when the Celtics kind of came in with that, what we thought was a deeper team. You were around then, but that was when they had Chris Wilcox coming back. They signed Darko, and even Doc Rivers had the infamous Darko Milicic starting lineup, which I believe never came to fruition, thank God. But it was supposed to be a starting 5 that was supposed to be fluid, and it never really was. It was pretty much the same in the months of November and December. This year it's going to be October as well. But I believe that is going to be the opening night-ish or pre-New Year-ish starting 5. It could change. I believe Al Horford is eventually going to be pushed permanently to the 5. Right now, I do know they're still trying to accommodate him personally a little bit in that they are giving him some time at the 4 still. He wants, doesn't want to start out the game guarding 5s. We'll talk about that a little later in the show, but I'm with you. Irving, Brown, Hayward, Horford, Baines, starting 5 certainly to start the year. How about a closing unit? Because this is exactly now where we're going to go. I don't think you're going to be seeing Aaron Baines on any closing unit. So give me generally what you think a closing unit is going to be pre-New Year's Day. So let's stick with 2017. 2017,
well, you got to throw Marcus Smart in that lineup. So I think they'll go small. You take out Baines. Yeah, you throw in Marcus Smart. I think the issue is going to be Jaylen Brown and how well he assimilates and takes on a bigger role in his second year. I know they're going to count on him for his defense, but do you take out Jaylen, throw in Marcus, take out Baines, and then throw in the other Marcus Morris, and go
that. Right?
Yeah,
because you can go real small and do. This is I assume where you were going. You go, obviously Horford at the 5, but Irving, Smart, Hayward, Brown. That's a real small. That's essentially 4 guards or 3 other swingmen for that matter. But yeah, you can take out Brown and have Morris in there as well. Although I'm kind of bearish on Morris, we can get into that a little bit. But that's exactly where you're going after I kindly interrupted you.
Yeah, I'm used to you interrupting me, though. So,
this plenty of others are.
course, right? No, but you're right. I do think they'll go, super small to end the game, and so I definitely know Baines will not be out there. I know they're going to want to do positionless defense and be able to switch and guard multiple positions, and so I expect either Marcus Morris or Jaylen Brown to finish the games. We know Marcus Smart will be there, but I think when you look at those two guys, Morris and Jaylen Brown, those may be interchangeable. Those may be guys that, one day maybe it's Jaylen, depending on how he's playing. I just worry about him being a second-year player, and will Brad show faith in him down the stretch like that? Or do you go with Marcus Morris, the guy that's tougher, can defend multiple positions, inside and outside? And so I think either way, it's going to be one of those two guys closing the game out.
What is your take on Morris? I've certainly talked/complained about him enough on this show. I mean, we look at him as very tough, yet he doesn't bring some of the skills that the Celtics do need, i.e. rebounding. He's a pretty poor rebounder. The Celtics have enough of that. So I know we have not seen much of him during the preseason, so in some case my judgments are a little unfair. So that's never been done before by me, huh? But just give me sort of your take a little on Morris here, because I've certainly talked about him enough in the last year.
No, a solid rotation guy. I don't think, you mentioned it. He's not the answer rebounding. Never rebounded in his career. Isn't, a double-digit kind of rebound guy. But I think defensively, he can guard the 3, 4, and depending on the team's 5, he can do that. He can switch out on the 2, and he can stretch the floor a little bit too. And so, he's a solid player. But is he the difference between, beating Cleveland and not? If you're counting on him to be the difference, I think you're going to be sorely mistaken. But he'll be a solid rotation player. Some nights he'll start, I think. Other nights he'll be, the second man off the bench behind Marcus Smart.
I think they're two completely different players, but offensively, I think it actually, and they come to play different positions, but offensively, I think it is just like Jaylen Brown, one of those guys, preferably both. Of course, preferably they're hitting 100% of their shots, but let's be a little realistic. Preferably both of them are hitting 40% of their three-pointers. It just sort of changes the whole complexion of the offense.
Oh, no doubt about that. I mean, 40% is a magical number, and if you're Brad Stevens, that's sort of euphoria. If you can have, a Marcus Morris stretching the floor, then you could play him, even more so with Al Horford. And can you imagine that lineup there with Marcus at the 4 and Al Horford at the 5? You talk about spreading the floor. That's a whole lot to ask, though. 40% from Marcus Morris, and Jaylen Brown, he's going to have to take a step when it comes to his 3-point shooting, whether it's the corner 3. I mean, his catch and shoot game has to improve. And that's the thing about the Celtics this season, Larry. You talk about Horford and Hayward and Kyrie. Ultimately, it's going to be guys like Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, Rozier, and Tatum that really determines, I think, how far this team can go.
Bombfell is an easier way for men to get better clothes. Bombfell never charges above retail price. They offer free shipping and returns, convenient home try-on, and the ability to preview and edit your stylist picks before your order ships. Yes, a personal stylist if you want. At Bombfell, you sign up, set up and schedule your order, get a preview email, and of course change what you want if there's something you don't like. Then Bombfell ships your order to you. And now here's where the fun begins. You have 7 days, yes, a full week to try on what you want before Bombfell charges your credit card. You then keep what you want to keep and ship back what you don't want. How convenient is that? There is so much that I love about Bombfell, the stylistic and fit material for me, and just how easy the service is that I have found to use. Cannot emphasize that enough. Free shipping and returns. And I've been saying enough. I love the mantra, Bombfell doesn't make money if you don't find something you want to keep. So we here at Celtics Beat negotiated with Bombfell to get a $25 offer for our listeners. For $25 off your first purchase, visit bombfell.com/CelticsBeat. That's bombfell.com/CelticsBeat. BOMBFELL.com. And the Celtics Beat URL, Bombfell, open and close. Believe it or not, I actually do not have any bold predictions for this season because I think it's something that I would bring up would be fairly boring, right? If it would have to be something. Last year, I said this team would have the number 1 defense in the NBA. That was a complete whiff. This year, I believe there's no shot at that. I would say even something along the lines of them having a top 10 defense because it's a brand new team. I don't see that happening. But then if I, made a prediction that, when it came to the bench, it'd be I think, fairly uninteresting. Like if I said the bench unit is going to be a top 10 scoring bench unit, so that isn't really bold. I got my bold prediction like the last time you were here. We did, prediction for 2018, 2017 when we did a show on New Year's Day, the last time you were on. Bold prediction, the Celtics were going to sign Gordon Hayward. I got that one.
That wasn't even bold, though, Larry. Everybody knew that was going to happen.
Well, no. Oh, everybody knew that was going to happen, then why the euphoria on July 4th? It wasn't like we threw that at the bottom of the transactions on the back of the newspaper. Come on.
But we knew the Hayward and the Celtics had mutual interest. That's not a bold. Now, if you would have told me Kyrie Irving would be a member, now that's huge. That's bold.
I think
you can go out there
bold
much
prediction that you would make. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think maybe there is something that you got for me. But any bold prediction that you would make this year, I think that's somewhat realistic. Like Gordon Hayward will sign with the Celtics, putting your name on that. That's somewhat realistic. I think is probably like another surprising Danny Ainge trade. Like God forbid, even exploring a Marcus Smart move at the deadline if something really doesn't make sense, or if, he gets an insinuation that an extension long term isn't really going to work out. And that would be like bold, another big Danny Ainge trade that you would have a rough idea of. But team wise or individually wise, there's Kyrie Irving for MVP. That would be a bold prediction, in my opinion. Do you got anything for me, Kyle?
Well, the thing about bold predictions, Larry, is they have to have a shot at coming true.
Like Gordon Hayward signing with the Celtics.
Exactly. Like Gordon Hayward signing with it. We knew there was a good shot at that. Let's keep it real. Kyrie Irving MVP, probably not going to happen. Celtics 3 All-Stars, that's going to happen. And so a bold prediction, I'll say Jaylen Brown. I'll go with the young fella. Jaylen Brown will average, is 13 points a bold prediction?
That's bold,
bold
enough.
Yeah,
Italicized. How about that? Italicized prediction.
Yeah,
italicized
exactly.
and underlined.
In between our normal font and the bold. And so I'll say Jaylen Brown averages 13 a game. I think he's going to take a big step forward.
That's actually going to be pretty important for the team this year. So that's exactly why we cheated and we sort of jumped right to the bold prediction. So I would say Jaylen Brown taking another step, good enough to qualify as a bold prediction. Let's stick sort of on the theme of this whole, the early phase of this Celtics season, because that's what I think is most intriguing. Well, that and the fact they do still have a ton of, nice, frontline talent for the first time in about, since the Garnett and Pierce years. We do know it is going to take a little time. You're a little more optimistic than I am. So, how about a prediction on the Celtics record on New Year's Day 2018? They play the Cavs on the 3rd. That's their first game in 2018, the calendar year. That's going to put them a nice, even 40 games into the year. So just give me a nice little record through 40 games, divided by 2, and what do you got for me, Kyle?
40 games. Give me 27 and 13.
That's a bold prediction, I think.
That's
there
a
you go.
Prediction.
There's the bold. The other one was, like I said, italicized or something like that. That's a bold prediction, in my opinion. Because I'm closer to 500.
No, not close to 500. I mean, you're talking 20 and 20. There's no way. If they're 20 and 20, Larry, something went terribly wrong. That to me would be a major disappointment. And I know, it's a tough schedule to start, 7 of first 11 on the road, and you got a whole new squad. But, I think even if you're not at 100% of what you can be, there are not a lot of nights where talent-wise you're better than the opposing team. And so I got 27 and 13.
See, I'm closer to something like 22 and 18. I mean, God forbid
that's what? Middle of the pack Eastern Conference?
At the time, yeah. I think, listen, we'll get into it. I personally think they're going to finish probably around 3 or 4 in the Eastern Conference at the end of I'm only at 48 wins, 48 to 50, around there. But listen, there are going to be a lot of nights where pretty much they're in the Eastern Conference. There's going to be a lot of games where, honestly, let's be honest, I do want to drive people to watch Celtics games on NBC Sports Boston. But there are going to be a lot of games where if the team just dresses, they should be able to win the game. We know how that's, we've talked about it a lot on recent episodes here, about how putrid the bottom of the Eastern Conference is and how it seems to be even larger this year. But I think the Celtics they're not just going to struggle early on, not just with chemistry and familiarity, but as you've talked about, I think there's going to be not just, tinkering of the lineup as Brad Stevens always does. There's going to be extensive experimentation, and that's why we've had the discussions that we've had. We don't know the starting 5 at all. I mean, I don't want to say at all. We have a good idea what it's going to be, but we still don't know what it is. It isn't, like we're used to, having as Celtics fans of DJ Ainge, Bird Parish McHale, or Rondo, Ray Allen, Pierce, Garnett, Perkins. It's not something that's completely set in stone like that. We don't even know the closing unit. We really don't even know a five. There's going to be extensive experimentation by Stevens. And it's going to be done, Kyle, with what I actually think is a fairly weak bench. They're going to be able to out-talent a good chunk of teams. That's going to basically make them automatically 500. But I do go back to the 2011 Heat. Hey, we're through 40 games, through 10 games. That year they were, through 17 games. They were 9-8. They eventually got things rolling. But
I disagree, Larry. I mean, and you're talking about them finishing third or fourth in the Eastern Conference, but yet, if you look at the numbers, a lot of places in Vegas have the Celtics winning the East, and it all depends on LeBron James, of course, talking about regular season. And so if they're at 48 wins and the Wizards finish ahead of them,
I got them first in the conference, man, the Wizards.
See, you might as well move down to D.C. then, man, because you're drinking their Kool-Aid. I think the Wizards are going to be a good team. They didn't make any major additions. They brought everybody back.
That may be a good thing.
Yeah, I know the Wizards brought everybody back. They're going to be a good team, no doubt about that. But if you're the Celtics, and I do agree, they do have some issues with the bench. Very young off the bench. You're going to expect Tatum to play meaningful minutes at some point this season, and I understand that. But I just think, Brad's system, and you'll keep bringing up the 2010-2011 Heat, as bad as they started, they still won 58 games. And so talent-wise,
LeBron and peak Wade.
But hold on, you can't have it both ways, Larry. You can't say, the Heat struggled, so the Celtics are going to struggle. Well, the Heat rebounded and won 58 games. So now you're saying, well, the Celtics can't do that? I mean, it's ridiculous. I think the Celtics, like I said, 55 wins, right around there. And, Brad Stevens' teams, as you know, routinely after the All-Star break especially,
they go on
major runs, and they get better. And so I fully expect this team, by, late December, mid-December, to be playing well. And the key is going to be, can some of those young guys step up? But I think the Celtics, I know there are some in the organization who probably believe that, they may take a step back. But I think ultimately at the end of the season, they'll be better prepared for the postseason.
What is your biggest concern? I guess it's probably easy to say rebounding. That's just, I think, a given now. That's pretty much up there with death and taxes. But defensively, do you share the same concerns that I do?
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, you lose Avery Bradley and Jay Crowder, your best two on-ball defenders, along with Marcus Smart. But you lose those two guys, and now you're placing a whole lot on Jaylen Brown's shoulders to be a defensive kind of guy. And so, I know Brad says the sky is the limit for Jaylen Brown when it comes to defense, but I haven't seen it yet. It's still early. Does he have the tools? He has the body. We know that. But does he have the fundamentals defensively? And so I think that'll be an issue. And also, we saw in that Philly game, and I know they beat Philly handily, and it was just a preseason, but you saw when Baines went out, they don't have much beef after that. I think interior just toughness, interior, girth, they don't have much up. And so that's why, going out and signing a guy like Andrew Bogut would have been awesome and made a whole lot of sense. But I don't think they have a whole lot of depth in that front court. I mean, are you really going to ask Daniel Tice to be a regular member of your rotation? So you're looking at Marcus Morris, Al Horford, and Aaron Baines. What happens if one of those guys goes down? And so I'm concerned about the depth in the front court.
I actually also think it goes once again back to the familiarity thing. There's just this intuition, second nature type things of these players still really don't know each other yet, and that really does tie back on defense when you can just have a second nature eyes in the back of your head when you know your teammate is going to be here or teammate is going to be there. That is something that will take time. That's why I think that Jaylen Brown, perimeter wise, I think he will. He played well defensively last year when Avery Bradley was out in that stretch in January. That I actually am not too worried about. I worry more about two things. One, they really didn't replace Jay Crowder's style of defense, strength-wise in the front court. And just basically, like I said, just that, back to the familiarity. Do want to do a little transition before we get you out of here, Kyle. We've pretty much gone right through, the whole thing team. Record, New Year's, defense, everything. I was going to ask you over/under on wins because Vegas actually, they have it pretty high. You mentioned Vegas. I saw the over/under at 55. Oh, geez, God forbid, Kyle. You stole it. You have the Celtics at 55, and as I said, that was 54 about it when we first started chatting. So if we keep you here long enough, we'll get you up to maybe even possibly the Celtics challenging the Warriors and the Bulls, and they'll maybe get 70 by the time we get you out of here. But any individual accolades for the Celtics? You mentioned that they'll have 3 All-Stars. I think we know who those are going to be. But anything like maybe an all-NBA team appearance?
Yeah, that's a tough question because the NBA, is
most
so
improved
good.
player, Jason Tatum, Rookie of the Year, or something like that. Any individual stuff.
How about Marcus Smart, second team defense, all defense, or something like that? I think the league, with Avery Bradley gone, Jay Crowder gone, people will see Marcus Smart a whole lot more. I expect Smart to play 30 to 32 minutes a game. And so I think we'll see a lot of him. And I think, the league will take notice of his defense. He's going to be in the 6-man conversation. I don't think he'll score enough to actually, get that, but he's going to be a strong 6-man candidate. I'm expecting it's a contract year for him, Larry. And so I expect him to ball out. In terms of all NBA, I think it's there for Kyrie Irving. No Isaiah Thomas this year. I think John Wall, when you look at the guards, John Wall, Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, there's a Chris Paul. And so it's going to be tough for him.
DeMar
DeRozan. But if the Celtics, get that number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference and Kyrie, averages 25 and maybe 7.5, 8 this season, I think it's going to be hard to keep them off that. And so outside of that, I don't see it. I do think they'll have 3 All-Stars this year because I think they'll be a good team. And I think, a lot of talent went from the East to the West. And so I think the Celtics will have 3 All-Stars.
Klay Thompson, Damian Lillard, those are also other guards as well. It's going to be tough, I think, for Gordon Hayward to get an All-NBA team. Would be nice, especially he was kept off last year. That helped him become a Celtic, for that matter. That was almost the difference of him probably staying in Utah, was him missing that All-NBA team. But I'll say he squeaks on there. I'll say he goes 3rd team All-NBA. I think, obviously, Harden, Wall, Curry, Westbrook, no chance he's going to be able to get ahead of them. But I think he'll beat out guys like DeRozan, especially I think the Raptors take a step back. Lillard, the West is just so deep, so Portland really won't be in the conversation. Klay Thompson, I don't know. You can only just kiss the Warriors behind so much, even though he is a great player. But I'll say he squeaks on there. Don't kill me for that one, though, if he doesn't. Let's go on record, okay? Like I said, this is the final question. Every time you've been talking about how many games the Celtics are going to win, there seems to be another win added, every time you mention. So we're probably up to about 61 by now. Let's go on record. I'm at 48 wins, and the Celtics being the 3 seed in the Eastern Conference and losing to the Cavs in 6. I think Washington is 1. I think the Celtics are going to be battling out with the Bucks early on for that 3 seed, even though that may not be a battle that you want if you're probably going to play Cleveland in the second round. But there it is, 48 wins for the Celtics, and they lose to the Cavs in 6. What do you got for me? This is in stone.
55 wins, and I know you keep saying I increased my win total.
It's
I did
55.
that one time. I did that
it's
one
55.
time, Larry. It was like our first 2 minutes of our conversation. So I'm going 55, and I think they will finish second in the East. I think LeBron James is on a mission. I don't think he'll rest as much this year, and so I think Cleveland will get the number 1 seed, and the Celtics will be the number 2 seed in the East.
Before I thank Kyle for joining us, real quick, ticket giveaways. Wednesday, November 1st against the Sacramento Kings. Win a pair of seats to that contest by subscribing, rating, and reviewing Celtics Beat on iTunes. Subscribe, rate, and write a review for Celtics Beat on iTunes for free entry into a drawing for a pair of tickets to see the Celtics take on the Sacramento Kings on November 1st. Want to thank everyone ahead of time who enters, everyone who already did so. And of course, now we can thank Kyle Draper of NBC Sports Boston. Important gratuities first, Kyle. Follow Kyle on Twitter, though, at Kyle Draper TV. That is at Kyle Draper TV. It's the least we could do for him for offering up his time to us here on episode number 232 of Celtics Beat, which was, past tense now, was presented by Bombfell. Go to bombfell.com/CelticsBeat for $25 off your first order for custom-made clothes. That's bombfell.com/CelticsBeat. Music was provided by Chuck Dietz and Steph Legrateau. For graphic designer Scott Dillon, CLNS CEO Nick Gelso, this is Larry H. Russell, the executive producer and host, signing off for Celtics Beat, the #1 Celtics podcast on the web, powered by CLNS Media.